A legal strategy. Kevin sat across from Angela in the car, his tone resolute. We need to act fast, Angela. The first thing we should do is sue Tommy. If we take legal action, the court can hold him off from claiming the company legally while we figure out a way to stop him. Angela nodded, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. You're right. Let's do it. I'll take him to my lawyer and see what can be done. At the lawyer's office, Angela explained the situation to her lawyer, Mr. Edwards, as Kevin sat beside her, listening intently. When she finished, the lawyer leaned back in his chair, adjusting his glasses. Angela, this is a messy situation, he began, his tone firm but understanding. I won't dwell on your mistake. Let's focus on solutions. What can we do? Angela asked anxiously. Mr. Edwards sighed. The problem is, you don't have any solid evidence yet. Right now, everything is based on suspicion, and the law doesn't deal with emotions. However, I will file a case against Tommy. This will stop him from making any legal moves until we gather more evidence to corroborate your claims. You need to start collecting anything that can prove his wrongdoing. Angela and Kevin exchanged glances. We'll get the evidence, Kevin said confidently. Good, the lawyer replied. The sooner the better. I'll serve him the legal notice. The plan to investigate. As they left the office, Kevin turned to Angela. We need to go directly to the companies Tommy is managing. If we offer them a discount, they might agree to renegotiate their contracts, which would cut Tommy out as the middleman. Plus, we can dig deeper into the deals he's been making. Angela nodded. That's a good idea. Let's start right away. At the first company, Angela and Kevin sat across from the director of a tech company they worked with, going through the contracts. As they reviewed the terms, Angela's hands tightened around the papers. Look at this, Kevin said, pointing to a section. Tommy has been giving them only 40% from the deal. And on top of that, he's taking an additional 10% for himself. Angela's eyes darkened. She turned to the director. This is unacceptable. Marketing agencies usually get 10 to 15%, not 70%. That's outright theft. The director nodded slowly. That's what I thought too. But Tommy was very persuasive. Angela offered a faint smile. I'd like to propose a discount to you. If you sign a new contract with us directly, we'll reduce your costs and ensure transparency moving forward. The director nodded. That sounds fair. As the director prepared to sign the new agreement, the door opened, and a woman walked in carrying a document. Angela froze. She recognized her instantly, Tommy's former secretary. The director greeted the woman warmly. Ah, this is Amanda. She's been helping my assistant this month while we finalize her position here. Angela's heart sank. How do you know her? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The director smiled. Tommy brought her to us. He asked me to keep her on for a while, said he was figuring something out. She's being paid directly by him, not us. I'm telling you this because I believe in transparency between partners. Angela forced a smile. Thank you for letting me know. I've seen her at Tommy's office, so I was just curious. As Amanda left the room, Angela stared after her, her mind racing. A shocking revelation. On their way out, Angela turned to Kevin, her voice trembling with barely contained anger. That woman, Amanda. I caught Tommy making out with her in his office. He told me he fired her after I confronted him, but he didn't. He sent her here instead. Kevin's jaw clenched. That's because she's part of his plan. He didn't want anything disrupting his game. Angela, this isn't just business for him. It's manipulation on every level. Meeting more companies. Angela and Kevin visited several other companies, renegotiating contracts where they could. Some agreed to new terms, signing directly with Angela. But a few refused outright, stating that they could only work with Tommy. He's got them tied down somehow, Kevin muttered as they left one of the offices. We need to dig deeper into those contracts. Angela nodded, exhaustion seeping into her voice. We'll figure it out. We have to. ####. A late-night call later that evening. Angela dropped Kevin off at his apartment. On her drive home, her phone buzzed. It was Mr. Edwards, her lawyer. Angela, I've been reviewing the case, he began. I think your son, Michael, might be able to stand as a witness. He saw Tommy manipulating you that night, and his testimony could help strengthen our case. Angela hesitated, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. Michael. He's just a child. I don't want to drag him into this. I understand, Edwards replied. But be prepared. If it comes to it, his account of that night might be crucial. Just think about it, okay? Angela hung up, her mind spinning. Her son. Could she really put Michael through something like this? ###. The courtroom drama. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Angela sat beside her lawyer, Mr. Edwards, clutching her hands tightly as the first round of arguments began. Tommy sat across from her, his face smug, his lawyer, an eloquent, sharp-dressed woman, articulating every point to paint Angela as emotional and unfit to manage her company. Angela's lawyer stood, countering every claim, but the tide of the case seemed to be turning in Tommy's favor. The judge's expression gave little away, but it was clear the courtroom leaned toward the strength of Tommy's lawyer's arguments. We'll take a break, the judge announced after an intense exchange. Mr. Edwards turned to Angela. This is getting tight. We need a game changer. Angela frowned. What do you mean? Edwards leaned closer. Michael has to take the stand. He's the only one who can testify about what happened that night. Angela froze. Michael. But he's just a child. He's all we've got, Edwards said firmly. We're running out of options. If he can recount what he saw, it might give us enough to sway the judge. Angela hesitated, her heart pounding. Then she nodded, standing up to find Michael, who was seated quietly in a waiting area with Kevin. ####. Preparing Michael. Angela knelt before her son, taking his small hands in hers. Mickey, sweetheart, I need to ask you something important. Can you do this for Mommy? Can you tell the truth about what you saw Tommy doing? Michael looked up at her, his eyes wide but determined. Do you need me to? Angela nodded, her voice soft. Yes, baby. Just remember what I told you. Don't be afraid, okay? You're brave and you know what happened. Just tell the truth. Michael gave a small nod. I'll do it, Mom. Angela hugged him tightly, whispering, Thank you, Mickey. You're my hero. ###. Back in court. The courtroom was silent as everyone returned from the break. The judge addressed the room. The plaintiff has requested a witness to take the stand. Does the defense have any objections? Tommy's lawyer stood, her expression confident. No objections, Your Honor. The judge turned to Angela's lawyer. Very well. Call your witness. Edwards stood. Your Honor, I call Michael, the plaintiff's son, to the stand. A murmur rippled through the courtroom as Michael walked to the stand, guided by a court officer. He climbed onto the chair, his small frame dwarfed by the witness stand. The judge leaned forward, addressing Michael gently. Young man, does your mother know you're here to testify? Angela stood and raised her hand. Yes, Your Honor. I gave my permission. The judge nodded. Proceed. ###. Michael's testimony. Edwards approached the stand, his tone calm and reassuring. Michael, can you tell the court what you saw Tommy doing the night you were at home with your mom? Michael glanced at Angela, then back at Edwards. I saw him take my mom's hand and press her finger into a little container. Then later, he put something like a plaster on her thumb and put it in a small bag. Edwards nodded. Did you ask him what he was doing? Yes, Michael replied. He said he needed to open my mom's phone. And did he open it? Yes, Michael said firmly. Edwards smiled. Thank you, Michael. No further questions, Your Honor. The judge gestured to Tommy's lawyer. Your witness. ####. The cross-examination. Tommy's lawyer rose, her heels clicking against the floor as she approached the stand. She gave Michael a condescending smile. "Hello, Michael." Michael stared at her, unmoving. "Do you like Tommy?" she asked. "No," Michael replied bluntly. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "Have you ever asked your mother to leave Tommy?" "Yes," Michael admitted. The lawyer turned to the judge with a theatrical sigh. "Your Honor, we're dealing with a 10-year-old boy who openly dislikes his mother's boyfriend and has asked her to leave him. It's clear that such a child could easily say or do anything to make his mother happy, even lie." "I'm not lying," Michael snapped, his voice trembling. The lawyer's smile widened, cold and patronizing. "Oh, sweetheart, it's obvious you are. You're just a little boy." Angela shot to her feet. "My son is not lying." "Order!" The judge banged his gavel, his voice booming. "Mr. Edwards, control your client." Angela sat down reluctantly, fuming as Michael's bottom lip quivered. The lawyer turned back to Michael. "It's okay, little one. You can step down now." Michael climbed off the stand, tears spilling down his cheeks as he ran to Angela. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "You did amazing, Mickey. Don't cry." As the courtroom murmured with tension, Tommy leaned back in his chair, his smug smile firmly in place. Angela stared at him, her mind racing. "This isn't over, Tommy. Not by a long shot." Kevin leaned in, whispering to Angela, "We'll get him. The truth always comes out." Angela nodded, steeling herself for the battle ahead. After the court session, Angela, Mabel, Kevin, and Mr. Edwards sat together in a quiet corner of the courthouse, the weight of the trial hanging heavily on their shoulders. Angela's lawyer, Mr. Edwards, broke the silence first. "On a scale of 1 to 10, he began gravely, "we're sitting at about a 3. Angela's face fell. "Is it because Michael took the stand?" Edwards shook his head. "No, that's not it." He leaned forward, his tone dropping. "Angela, can I speak to you in private?" Angela sighed and shook her head. "No, you can say whatever it is here. I'm done hiding things from the people who care about me." Edwards hesitated, then nodded. "How many people knew about the call yesterday when I told you that Michael might take the stand today?" Angela frowned. "Just me. No one else." Edwards' eyes narrowed. "Then either someone is monitoring your phone, or they're tapping into your calls." "Did you notice how quickly Tommy's lawyer agreed to let Michael testify? She was ready for it, too ready. The questions she asked him were calculated and prepared. That means they knew ahead of time." Angela instinctively reached for her phone, but Kevin stopped her. "Don't. Tommy is watching, Angela. If they're monitoring you, we can't tip them off." Edwards nodded. "Exactly. Cover your end while I work on mine. But I'll need more evidence to build our case. Anything you can find, no matter how small, could help." Angela gave a small nod as Edwards stood to leave. A showdown with Tommy. Just as they were gathering their things, Tommy approached. His confident smirk made Angela's stomach churn. "Angela," he began smoothly, "can I speak to you for a minute?" Angela crossed her arms. "Whatever you have to say it here." Tommy's smile faltered for a moment before he shrugged. "Fine. Angela, you've made a huge mistake coming here. Do you realize what you've done? You're going to lose everything." Angela met his gaze head-on. "What do you mean by that?" "I gave you an opportunity," Tommy continued, his tone growing sharper. "And you threw it away. Now you're playing games in court, but it won't change the outcome." Angela cut him off. "An opportunity? You mean stealing 60% of my business deals and fraudulently trying to take 60% of my company's shares to a ghost company? A company I know you own." Tommy's smirk returned. "Let's say I am the owner of those companies. So what? Still us. Soon we're going to get married. Can't you see the bigger picture?" Angela's eyes darkened as she reached into her bag. Slowly, she pulled out Tommy's engagement ring and threw it at him. "I don't blame you, Tommy," she said, her voice icy. I blame myself for making it so easy for you to use me and treat me like I'm stupid. But don't worry, I'll show you why I'm called Angela. She turned to Kevin and Mabel. Let's go. As they walked away, Tommy called after her, his voice mocking. You're falling deeper, honey. And when you do, I'm the only one who can save you. Angela didn't turn back. At Angela's house, the mood at Angela's house was tense. Mabel paced the living room while Kevin leaned against the wall, deep in thought. Angela sat on the couch, her hands resting on her lap. What do we do now? Mabel finally asked. Angela shook her head. I don't know, Mab. I'm trying to figure it out. Mabel stopped pacing and looked at Angela. Wait, don't you have a secret camera you use to monitor Michael's nanny? Angela nodded. I do, but I stopped using it because the app drains my phone battery. The camera hasn't worked for months. Kevin's eyes lit up. That might actually work to our advantage. If Tommy is monitoring your calls, we can use it to trap him. Angela tilted her head. How? Kevin began pacing, his mind racing. Here's the plan. Mabel, you'll call Angela and bring up the camera. Act like you're asking her to check it for something important. Angela, you'll pretend you're at my place and say you'll check it tomorrow morning. If Tommy is really monitoring your calls, he'll make a move. Angela leaned forward. That's a good idea. But how do we monitor him? Kevin smirked. My roommate Gerald can help. Tommy doesn't know him, so he can keep an eye on Tommy without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, I'll handle the rest. Angela nodded. If Tommy is behind this might be our only chance to catch him in the act. Kevin looked at her, his voice firm. Then let's make it count. As Angela and Mabel exchanged determined glances, Kevin pulled out his phone. I'll talk to Gerald tonight. We'll make sure everything is set up. Angela stood, her resolve hardening. Tommy thinks he's untouchable. Let's show him he's not. Mabel smirked. This is going to be interesting. In the shadows of Angela's house, the pieces of a plan began to fall into place. But none of them could shake the feeling that Tommy had plans of his own. The final trap. Tommy parked his car in a quiet lot, his phone buzzing with a notification. He glanced at the screen. Tech guy voice note sent. Tommy pressed play, his brow furrowing as the voice filled the car. Tommy, I don't know how we missed this, but Angela has a hidden camera in her house. It might have captured everything. If she gets her hands on that footage, the entire operation is screwed. We need to act fast. Tommy cursed under his breath, quickly dialing the tech guy and a few other contacts. After several calls, he reversed his car, driving toward a secluded garage where 3 men waited. His so-called investors. We've got a problem, Tommy said, stepping out of the car. One of the men, a tall guy with slicked back hair, crossed his arms. What now? Tommy played the voice note. The second man, visibly frustrated, rubbed his temples. Tommy, how could you not know she had a secret camera? We were this close to celebrating the success of this mission, and now one stupid mistake could blow everything. The third man interjected, his tone calm. Let's not dwell on mistakes. What matters is fixing this before it escalates. So, what's the plan? Tommy straightened up, his voice steady. I know where the recording device is. It's in her bedroom closet, connected to a computer. The problem is I can't get it alone. I'll need help. The second man raised an eyebrow. What do you need us to do? Tommy smirked. Simple. We'll climb the fence, get into the house, and grab the hard drive before Angela gets back. 2 of us will watch the perimeter. 1 of you will distract anyone who comes by, and I'll handle getting the device. After a quick discussion, the group nodded, agreeing to the plan. Breaking in that evening, Tommy and his crew arrived at Angela's house. He punched in the gate code, but it didn't work. Great, Tommy muttered. Plan B. With a boost from one of his men, Tommy climbed the fence, another man following closely behind. The other 2 stayed outside, one leaning casually against the car, pretending it was broken, the other keeping an eye on the street. Inside the house, Tommy navigated the darkness with a flashlight. He opened Angela's closet and spotted the computer. With a triumphant grin, he removed the hard drive and slipped it into his bag. He turned to his accomplice, laughing softly. "We did it. Let's get out of here before she gets back." Suddenly, the room flooded with light. "Don't celebrate too soon," Angela's voice rang out, calm yet commanding. "The party's just starting." Tommy and his accomplice froze, their faces pale with shock. Out of the shadows stepped a police officer and another man holding a camera, filming the entire scene. "Mr. Tommy," the officer said, his voice firm, "you're under arrest." Tommy panicked, dropping the hard drive as he stepped toward Angela. "Angela, wait. This doesn't have to end like this. We're in love, remember? I'm sorry if I hurt you. We can fix this. We can go back to how we started." Angela let out a cold laugh. "Love? You don't know the first thing about love, Tommy. This ending. It's exactly what I wanted, to see you beg for your freedom." She took a step closer, her voice sharp. "But newsflash, it's over. You're going to jail and I'm staying CEO. I'll fall in love again someday, with someone who deserves me, and I'll live a happy life. You'll rot in prison. You thought you could break me, but all you did was teach me a lesson. And now I'm done." Tommy's mouth opened to speak, but Angela cut him off, gesturing to the police. "Take them away." As Tommy and his accomplice were cuffed and led out, Mabel stepped into the room, smirking. "Remember, Tommy? I told you to enjoy your laugh while it lasted. Looks like it didn't even last a week. What a shame." Justice served. Tommy and his accomplices were charged and sentenced swiftly. Tommy received 10 years in prison for fraud and an additional 7 years for abuse after Angela pressed charges. His accomplices were sentenced to 5 years each for colluding with him. A new beginning back at the company. Things began to fall into place. Angela made sweeping changes to ensure a brighter future for herself and her team. She gave 10% of the company's shares to Mabel as a token of gratitude for her loyalty. 5% to Kevin, recognizing his unwavering support and contributions. 15% to Michael, with Angela managing it until he came of age. Angela retained 40% ownership and sold the remaining 30% to reputable investors eager to partner with her. Mabel became the manager, Kevin was promoted to marketing director, and Angela remained the company's director and CEO. A happy life. One evening, Angela sat in her office, watching Michael play outside with Mabel's niece. Kevin walked in holding a file. "You look happy," he said, smiling. Angela glanced at him, her eyes sparkling. "I am, Kevin. For the first time in a long time I feel free." Kevin chuckled. "You deserve it, Angela. You built this company, and now you're stronger than ever." Angela smiled. "Thank you, Kevin, for everything." As Kevin left, Angela leaned back in her chair, a soft smile on her lips. She had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation. And now, she was ready for a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. A love worth waiting for. As the days turned into weeks, Angela and Kevin grew closer, their professional partnership evolving into something much deeper. One evening, after a long day of meetings and appointments for the company, Angela invited Kevin to her place to finish some work. "Here," Angela said, opening her laptop for him on the living room couch. "You can start reviewing the reports while I take a shower." Kevin nodded, watching her disappear upstairs. He tried focusing on the task, but when Angela returned moments later wearing a stunning nightgown, his concentration faltered. She walked gracefully down the stairs, her beauty taking his breath away. Angela sat beside him, reaching for the laptop. "So, what do you think? Should we go with this plan?" Kevin stared at her, completely entranced. "Kevin, are you here?" she asked, waving a hand in front of his face. Without thinking, Kevin leaned forward and kissed her softly. Pulling back, he murmured, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but if this gets me fired, I'll still be glad I did it." Angela smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I've been waiting for this for a long time," she whispered, pulling him closer. "Let's fire each other then." Their kiss deepened, filled with passion and longing. As they began to unbutton their clothes, Angela paused, her voice teasing. "Not here. Let's go to my room." As they headed upstairs, hand in hand, Michael peeked around the corner and spotted them sharing a kiss. He grinned mischievously and whispered to himself, "Finally." That night marked the beginning of a new chapter for Angela and Kevin. Happily ever after their love blossomed, building on trust, partnership, and genuine affection. Kevin eventually proposed, and Angela joyfully said yes. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love and resilience, attended by close friends, family, and colleagues. Together, they built a life filled with laughter and happiness. Michael welcomed 2 siblings, a younger brother and sister, completing their family of 5. Angela and Kevin supported each other's dreams, creating a home filled with love and warmth. Despite the challenges they had faced, they found in each other a partnership that was unshakable. And they lived happily ever after,